to have you with us today. And today we spend time chatting about this region and particularly Midland, because with us, the head of the Midland Business Alliance, we say good morning to Tony Stamas. Tony, good morning to you.
Good morning, Art. Great to be with you.
Good to be with you, too. And we're going to start with some very good news from Midland, which I never would have thought of.
We have lots of good news.
Well, this one, no, I wouldn't have thought of this particular one.
Okay.
The U.S. News and World Report, according to an article that was in the Free Press, I believe, ranks Midland, Michigan as the number one place in the United States to retire.
Yes.
And you were even quoted in the article.
Yes.
Also rated the best place to retire in Michigan.
Yeah.
And the other thing that caught my attention was that not only is Midland on the list, but Bay City and Saginaw made the list in the top 28. So what's your reaction?
Well, it's exciting. I mean, I think it confirms something that we feel, living in Midland, living in the Great Lakes Bay region and seeing on a daily basis. Just what a wonderful, not that there aren't challenges every day, but that there's a wonderful quality of life, wonderful employers. We work with our governmental partners, our nonprofits. So it's just a great community. And it's, we say, we're honored to be that for people to retire, but we also think that all the reasons you would want to retire here are the reasons you'd want to come here out of college, you'd want to come here mid-career, you'd want to raise your family. And so that's something that we really try and emphasize. But I also do think it speaks to what your other point, the regional cooperation. Yesterday, Bay was kind of our host over at the Tony and Trish House in Auburn. And so we were there with the Bay Chamber, the Auburn Chamber, Saginaw, and Midland, and we were all there together just they just finished an expansion, but to celebrate the great work they do, but we do that on a regular basis. We partner as a region because that I think we have to, and that helps us to highlight days like yesterday, but also to make sure that we're working together for all of our communities.
Yeah, I know, and then every now and then, once a year at least, you have a regional summit, don't you, of all the chambers?
We do. We have one coming up in August.
August 19th, yeah. One thing that caught my attention, though, in this news article, they say that the national average home value is $359,000 plus dollars. But the median home value in Midland, and this really surprised me, is only $206,000. Now, if we drive around Midland and we see homes that we know are far more valuable than $206,000, do you have that much low-end housing to bring that average down? And it surprises me.
I don't think we do. Yeah, no, and I'm not sure what the data points they were used, but and I probably mentioned this to you in the past. A couple of years ago, my son was in the building trades program out at Bullet Creek,
right.
And they built a nice 3-bedroom house, no basement, over on Ashby Road. And it was very nice, but certainly not in any way elaborate. And I said, "Buddy, what are they selling it for?" And he says, $300,000. I said, "You mean 200?" And he's like, "No, Dad, 300,000." Yeah. And that's what they were selling it for. So, yeah, certainly my experience has not, and that's what Housing Forward, Jenna Costa leads. That's kind of the whole focus is how we can help in terms of workforce housing, because I think people do want to live here. They want to live in Midland. They want to live in the Great Lakes Bay region, but we've got to give them options kind of across the spectrum.
Well, given the fact that it's 300 plus a square yard to build a home, a square foot, I should say, to build a home. The starter home of yesterday that used to cost $125,000 to $150,000 is now $350,000, $400,000, $450,000. How do we solve the housing problem? Because obviously, if you want people to move to Midland or retire in Midland, you've got to have affordable properties for them.
We do, yeah. And, it's a number of factors when you kind of look at the materials cost, you look at labor costs, you look at the land, the infrastructure. And so trying to deal with all those, because we want developers to be here, and I think they want to be here, but you've got to make that. And it's not really unique to Midland or the region. I mean, you kind of see it around the country. But what things can we do? What costs that are built in terms of regulations can we reduce? And I think we're seeing some of that discussion with the gubernatorial candidates. Can we reduce? And what are other ways that we can kind of help? It's ever changing in terms of the materials and the structures. we're seeing, just before the Planning Commission, we've had a couple of projects here in Midland, I think 170 some units out on Commerce Drive apartments, about 80 units over on Joe Mann. And then we've got a River Caddis project coming online, about just over 200 apartments. So that's great, but we still need kind of what I would say that workforce housing. And, you got groups like Habitat that do such a great job and, in kind of the affordable space and a lot of other groups. But how do we make sure we've got a full spectrum?
Yeah, that's, and I hear you in the last project you just identified, they're almost all multifamily.
Right.
Which is pretty much the wave of the future, isn't it?
It really is, and it has changed. I mean, when you look at the demographics in terms of family size, and that has changed. And I know, like for the city of Midland and their master plan that they just updated, that was a big piece they focused on, is recognizing, okay, what made sense 30, 40 years ago, in a lot of ways it has really changed, and trying to update that to reflect, kind of what all the trends show us.
Tony, what's been the impact of Dow going through its downturns and layoffs and what have you?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a challenging time, and I think, they're dealing with issues that are kind of on a global basis, and, trying to navigate that, and that changes, if not daily, maybe hourly. But, they're still working with the community. Had the announcement that Karen Carter, who's been a longtime leader, really understands the business, is stepping up. Jim Sitterling, who's been great, will still continue there. So, we still have legacy leaders that understand the environment and are, navigating it as well as anybody can. And I think, we've been really pleased that we've been partnering with them for the last year, because they've got, a really unique asset with the iPark. There's everything that you would need to do a manufacturing site, water treatment, power from Capital Power, MCV, all those things are right there. And so we've been working with them to tell businesses that are looking to expand, that opportunity, not just here in the U.S., but even around the globe. And we've had a lot of interest. So, I think that they're, as a company, navigating a really challenging environment. But, I'm confident, given their history and the team leading them, that they're gonna move forward in a strong way.
All right, we're going to take a break. Come back. We're talking to Tony Stamas. He heads up the Midland Business Alliance. More ahead.
Rocket Grab Plus.
And welcome back. Talking to Tony Stamas, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Midland Business Alliance. And you may have another business alliance forming up. It sounds like Bay City is moving in that direction, Tony.
Yeah, I know they're exploring that. And, what I can say from our end is we found real value. I mean, it's the mission's the same. You kind of use different tools and you have different ways you go at it, but really the mission is to help the businesses that are here, help them grow and thrive and survive challenges and attract new businesses. And so I think that when the community leaders brought the Midland Business Alliance together, I think they saw that. And I always tell people that when there's no playbook on your bookshelves for, say, a global pandemic or for a dam breach, that's really a proof of concept, where it's just all hands on deck and how do we help out our business partners in our community. And so I think we found great value, and I think there's great leadership over in the Bay Area, and work with Megan Saman almost on a daily basis. And I think I'm sure they're going to go through what's the best fit for them, but I know we found real value.
Let's talk about the dams for a minute, because actually there's been positive news. I mean, Sanford Lake is almost back to full.
It is.
And they'll be moving on the other ones in the near future. But along with that comes flood reduction and resiliency you guys have been working on for quite some time. Where are we?
We are, yeah. And just going back, I mean, I think for a lot of people going across US 10, going up there, it was very emotional that 6 years ago, I think today, on this date, and the fact that it's back, the work that Four Lakes and Dave Kepler did is just really this side of amazing. And it really is so impactful for that community and for the surrounding communities. So just give them all the credit in the world. Yeah, but we continue, as we've noted, we are indeed in the Saginaw Valley, and so we continue to work on building long-term flood resiliency. We've got a partnership with the City of Midland, the County of Midland, and the Army Corps of Engineers that's working with the MBA, and right now we're kind of in a process of identifying solutions. They were up a couple weeks ago and really kind of looking at it and working our way through the process. But it's been a great partnership. In the interim, we've worked with our state legislators and all the legislators on a bipartisan basis have just been so helpful to identify certain projects that we can get done. And right now in Midland, if you're here, pretty much every which way you go, there's road construction. But
Yep.
no small part of that is that, a few years back, Representative Schuette, then our state senator, Kristen McDonald-Rivet, were able to get some ARPA dollars. Well, those have to be spent this year. And the city of Midland is making sure that they're wisely used and they're working towards flood resiliency. So a lot happening, but I think it's going to be very impactful. And I think the Army Corps project, which looks at larger projects, they've been just a wonderful partner, and I think we're going to continue to move forward with that effort as well.
That's nice to hear because a lot of times when you hear about the Army Corps of Engineers, there are obstacles. And it's nice to know they're partnering with you on a positive basis.
Yeah, we have had just a great experience, their leadership, and we've had a chance to go down to their Detroit office. They've been up here frequently, and so, it doesn't happen, maybe as quickly as you'd like it to, but there's a process to go through and been very responsive and like I said, been great partners.
Which brings me to the obvious question, because there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of looking, a lot of planning. When do we see shovels turning the earth and actually have some kind of flood resiliency?
Yeah, well, like I think it's to some degrees we're already seeing that. We've got, we just had a press release. We had some money that went towards a pump station in the city of Midland that sometimes gets flooded. We've got an appropriation that came in last year that we're working towards, where the road levels come down, changing that. Some of it, is going to the different drains. So it's happening. I think for the bigger project, you're probably talking, a 2031 time frame. It has to go through what's called WRDA, the Water Resources Act, which is done every 2 years. And then once that's approved, then you have to look at funding. So, but we've been working on this 6 years, and it has flown by. And I'm confident that will remain true for the next couple of years. And in the interim, we're going to keep looking on for specific projects that we can help, My Michigan, that we can help, Northwood, that we can help the homeowners and the businesses, and wherever there's opportunities, work with our legislators to do that as well.
I got a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You mentioned a pump station at the area that floods the most in Midland. So you have that pump station. It floods. It pumps the water. Where does it put the water that it doesn't come back to flood again?
That is a great question, actually, and I always say this with my caveat that I'm a pizza maker by training, but I think the idea is, say, the sturgeon, that it comes in, you get the rain that comes in immediately, and it rains hard, and that comes up. And then if there's water coming, say, from the north, well, then it's coming down the Tittabawassee. And so eventually there's no room for the water to go into that. In fact, it pushes it back. And so you might get flooding initially. You might get flooding when the water comes back. And so I think the basic concept is, all right, if you can flow the water through there, kind of push that water into the Tittabawassee when the creeks are high, and then conversely close it off so it doesn't push it back. But that's exactly right. You can't just say, okay, we've made it better here. We need to, and then the water is going downstream and somebody else is affected by it. So that's part of what you look at is you can't push that problem down to somebody else. So where does that water go? If you go to Lansing, you go across the Shiawassee Reserve there, and just a beautiful area. You see all the wildlife and everything as you're going south on 27. I think there's areas like that. And we've got some of that here and in the surrounding areas. And so how do you build a place so then when that water, and we see some of it already. I mean, in the spring, Curry Golf Course has got a lot of water and it dries off and it's a great golf course then again. Yeah. And so how do we build more of that? So whatever you have that, again, you can't just push it downstream. You have to make sure you account for it.
Well, I chuckle because I live on River Road in Thomas Township. I'm on the high side of the road. Right across the street is the farm field and the river. And it floods regularly in the spring because that's where the water goes.
Exactly right.
So I owe it to you. Congratulations.
Well, some of it comes north of us, so there's a lot of a lot of credit or blame to be shared.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. So you're thinking by the 2030, 31, we should see some kind of reduction in our flooding.
Well, I hope before then, because like I said, we've been doing a lot of different projects, and we're going to continue to do those. You know, sometimes it's as simple as debris removal, and the city and the county are both working on that, so the water flows better. So we're going to kind of keep going it every which way. But I think for a larger project through the Army Corps of Engineers, that'd be the timing we'd be looking at.
Let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about attracting business to Midland and location of sites. Are there commercial sites available in Midland?
There are. You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, with the industrial park, it's just really an incredible asset because, you know, someone's looking at doing manufacturing, you know, so much of it you have to say, okay, you know, we need these 50 things to do manufacturing. Well, those are already in the industrial park, and there's land available. And so we've been, you know, talking to folks, you know, around the globe and around the U.S. about that opportunity if you're looking at doing an expansion. And so some of them, you know, it would just make sense for them, hopefully for a business. But then others of them, maybe they work with HSC, maybe they work with Corning, maybe they work with, you know, businesses in other surrounding areas. So that's something we've been really over the last year been very actively working on and partnering with our partners at Dow on. And then we also have other sites that aren't in the iPark that are surrounding it. And so, you know, we share that because, you know, you might have a different, you know, some businesses we've talked to are looking from a logistics standpoint. You know, we had a chance at the end of the year, went to Istanbul. We were working with a company, and they said there's a lot of companies in Turkey that are looking to locate in the United States. And we had really some great reception. It never happens right away, but, you know, we still have conversations ongoing that, you know, they're interested in having a physical operations, some manufacturing, some logistics. So we're going to keep partnering on that because I think, like I said, it's really a unique asset. You've got Capital Power MCV right there providing power to that. And so then in the surrounding areas, obviously, we work with Consumers Energy, and they're a great partner as well. So we think it gives us a real strategic advantage that we want to make sure we're getting that message out there.
So let me ask you about a different kind of development. Has Midland County adopted any policy relating to data centers?
No, not that I'm aware of. You know, I know the city hasn't, and I don't believe any of the townships have. You know, I think, you know, I think it's fair to look at the discussion, but I think the goal will be, and I think Midland historically has done this well, is to look at it analytically, look at the facts, you know, in terms of, you know, from my perspective, okay, is there property that would make sense? Is there industrial property? You know, all of these projects need an energy source. And so do you have energy source? I know DT and Consumers are looking at expanding capacity, but again, that doesn't happen overnight. So is there energy source? And then, you know, I think water is kind of the third piece of that. And, you know, we're fortunate to have a great system. Yeah. We've got a great system, you know, with Saginaw. We partner with Bay coming out of Lake Huron. And as I understand it, most of them use a closed loop system. So, yeah, I think that you know, we're seeing lots of interest, not just obviously here, but around there. And I think, you know, we would encourage our partners to just kind of make sure that, you know, sometimes you kind of get a lot of noise, and, you know, just kind of sorting through that, saying, okay, what are pieces that we want to make sure we address, and what are pieces that don't really reflect the reality.
Do you ever, you know, gather up all the leadership of the various townships and communities that make up Midland County to talk about these kinds of things? Because obviously, if a data center wants to come in, if it's outside the city of Midland, they've got to deal with the zoning in another community.
Yeah, and they hold regular meetings, the Townships Association. So, you know, we try and join them and give them updates. But, you know, for example, broadband. We've been working on broadband for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
And that's one where, you know, you go out to the townships. You know, we've got, you know, with the Village of Sanford, work very closely with them, the City of Coleman. You know, certainly the City of Midland on a daily basis. And so, and there are, you know, different things in different townships, and so you probably have different conversations. But yeah, absolutely, we always try and keep those lines of communications open for where we can support, where we can answer questions, where we can assist them.
All right, Tony, hang on. I got to take a break here. We'll come back. We're talking to Tony Stamas, President and CEO of the Midland Business Alliance.
For 10 years, New Hope Bank.
Hi, we're back with you, and with us, the President and CEO of the Midland Business Alliance. He is Tony Stamas. Tony, they're in the budget process now in Lansing. Hopefully we'll have one sooner than later.
Right.
What is that process, and you being someone quite familiar with that, what's the process mean to Midland?
Well, I think it's meaningful to Midland, whether it's our cities, our counties, certainly our schools. It provides certainty that, when people are trying to make decisions, they know what the state budget looks like. And so, I think there's a consensus interest in getting it done before, I think, July 1st. And that's always helpful. That can happen. It's not easy. I mean, it's a challenging financial time, and people have different ideas and different perspectives. But I think whenever that can happen, that really helps all of us to kind of know what the lay of the land looks like for the upcoming year when the budget year starts in October.
You expect more money or less money?
I think it's going to be a tight budget. I mean, they had their revenue conference, and it was up a little bit, but I think clearly, some of this, the ARPA dollars were there,
Yep.
3-4 years ago, and then, you kind of get different programs spent at a certain level, but then those dollars are no longer there, and so I think they're trying to, address how you deal with that, where you cut back, where you don't, and I know the House sent out their budget, the Senate's done theirs, the governor's presented her budget, and so now it's finding the mix that the three of them can agree upon.
Yeah. All right, I want to move over to broadband for a minute because back in 2019, the Midland County Internet Connectivity Committee was formed, and
Yes.
actually it was an interesting timing because COVID in 2020
Right.
pointed out how much we need broadband and things that happen.
Exactly.
How are we doing at wiring up, so to speak, Midland County?
Yeah, it's really moving forward, and a lot of this has been, there was federal dollars appropriated. It's taken a long time to kind of work through the process to go to each of the states, and then the states have to appropriate those. But we've been very focused on it. Yeah, like you said, even before the pandemic, we knew, Bridget Granston, our county controller, Sharon Mortensen with the Community Foundation, how important this was. And I often equate it to kind of modern day rural electrification. 100 years ago, people's lives changed by having electricity. And if you were in rural areas that didn't, and so now how you can get broadband, because you can work across the globe, you can go to school, you can get medical, all of those things, but you have to have that connectivity. And so the state identified, and we tried to help wherever we can, working with the county GIS system, where there were gaps, and just going out to all the townships, the village, the cities, and letting them know we were doing that. And then working with the internet service providers. These are the folks that do this. Many of them that we know well, some of them that are new but are doing great work. And so they applied for what were called BEAD grants from the state, and the state awarded them. And the goal is to have the whole coverage for the entirety of the state by 2029. Now, the ones we're working with feel like it'll be much before that. And, our goal has been, one, quality connectivity, and two, affordability. And so you want to make sure everybody has at least one option, but then we'd like to have, multiple options, so you actually have a, competitive environment, and people can kind of pick what makes the most sense for them.
And you expect by 29? You're hoping?
Yes, that is what the agreement on that the federal government and the state government said is, okay, we're awarding these grants. You have to be done by 2029, and it would provide coverage for the entirety of the state and all of Midland County, certainly.
I'll go back just for a second, talk about ARPA dollars. Midland, like every other governmental entity, had a bunch of ARPA dollars. Did they account for all of their ARPA dollars, and will they have them all spent by the end of the year?
Yes and yes. I mean, there was a formula, and so we didn't get as much, in terms of municipal as other communities did. But yes, they've accounted for those. And then, I said, working with our state senator, our state representative, we were able to get $25 million specifically to go to flood resiliency from those dollars, and they have to be spent by the end of this year, by the end of December. And I know the city is working, doing a great job to make sure that is indeed the case. And so that's why every which way you go, you're seeing work being done, but it is it's going to really be a benefit to our community.
And last question, how's traffic in Midland these days?
It's not bad. I'm looking out at traffic. It's flowing well. I was over at the Dow Championship Media Day yesterday, and talking about how they're going to adjust it because that's coming up just the first week of June. Yeah. And they're going to have the Jim Fitterling Trophy, which is a wonderful recognition of Jim's leadership and passion. I'm bringing world-class golfers here, and so it's going good. We were out doing Midland Blooms on Saturday, and traffic. People learn to navigate, and we're going to have a lot of people coming in. Dow Gardens is going to have dinosaurs. Our farmers market over with the Baseball Foundation, but we've had great crowds there on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So people are navigating, and everybody's working to make it okay. You can't go this way, but here are some other options.
Yeah. It's the orange barrel world we live in.
It really is.
It really and truly is. All right, let's finish up. You've mentioned him, and I've known him for a long time, and this will be his last year as the opening ceremony guest for the Dow Championship, and that's Jim Fitterling, who has been, just an outstanding CEO for Dow. And I was thrilled to hear that Karen Carpenter was going to follow him. What a natural transition.
Yes, she is. Yes.
It's impressive.
Yeah, no, Jim's been a great leader, and certainly, you got to lead this global company through incredibly challenging times, and then you work with the communities. We know here in Midland and the Great Lakes Bay region, but really around the globe, how they're working with their communities, and I think that's always been a focus of Dow's. And and like I said, Karen Carter steps up, and she has just a wealth of experience in different ways, and I think we'll continue to build on that leadership and to navigate that path. So we're fortunate when you think of the idea of great corporate citizens. They are really exemplary, and even in challenging times, work with the community and have conversations. And we're fortunate to have such a great partner.
And Jim's not totally leaving; he moves over to be executive chair, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I think we'll still be very much involved, and we're glad for that as well.
Well, Tony, look, I'm going to let you go. I thank you much for your time, as always. And we look forward to chatting with you again, and we'll probably see you at the Dow Championship.
I have a hunch. Thanks, Art. Always great to be with you.
All right, Tony, take care. Bye-bye now.
Take care. Bye.
Tony Stamas, he is, of course, the president and CEO of the Midland Business Alliance. We're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to surprise a guest we have in studio. He's going to have to talk. All of that coming up.
Whether you're dreaming.
All right, we're back with you here on the Art Lewis Show, and in the last few minutes of the show, I've had a guest in the studio. He's interning with us in the news department. Tell everybody your name.
Hi, I'm Alex Nichols. I'm from Chesapeake, and I'm a current student at Delta College.
And your future is what, Alex? What do you want to do?
So I'm currently in the broadcasting industry, so I would like to do something in that field, broadcast or radio.
You're sure now?
Yeah. Yeah.
After watching us.
Yeah. Well, originally I wanted to become a science teacher.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what changed your mind out of curiosity?
Too much work.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that because I have a useless degree in engineering. It's too much work. Not useless in that way, but useless because I'd never used it.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. So where'd you go to school?
I attended Chesapeake all 12 years. Really nice school, very great education system. And then applying for colleges, it was like, really, do I want to go to like a major college or do I want to save money? So
yeah,
I decided just to go to Delta. Yeah.
Did you get it under the free program or?
At first, no, and then later on, it was like my second year, we found out about the free program, and now I'm currently in the free program, which is, I'm really grateful for that.
So you're in your second year at Delta.
Yes.
So you complete that, then what? Will you go on for another 2 years someplace else? Saginaw Valley or wherever?
It depends. I'm looking. there's nice stations. I like Fair State. There's
So you want to stay in the broadcasting realm? Huh?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's just all depends.
CMU.
Yeah, CMU. Yeah, CMU, MSU. It just really all depends on where I land. Yeah, or where my mind is being like.
So, in the broadcasting realm, do you want to be on the talent side or the technical side or the sales side, the business side? It's all these sides.
I really want to be on the talent side. I want to be on the air. I want to talk to people. Growing up, I was really like, I love talking to people and very like theatrical, let's just say, and like very dramatic.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know, I take after like watching, like growing up watching like radio host and like TV host, and I was like, that's what I want to do in the future. Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck with that, because we're all getting older. There'll be replacements if AI doesn't come along.
Oh yeah, jeez.
So I don't know.
It's
It's a different world we live in today.
It's something.
Well, we're glad to have you here. You're interning. How long are you going to be with us?
I'm gonna be here until August,
Good.
mid-August. Yeah.
Well, we'll see you around, Alex. Thanks for being in.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Alex Nichols, he's interning with us in the news department with Michael Percha. Good guy to learn from. And we wish him well in his future endeavors. We'll take our last break, and we'll tell you what's ahead next hour.
Experience an exciting.
And that'll do it for the Art Lewis Show for today. We'll be back tomorrow with lots more. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Don Stanley from Stan's Gold Mine in Bay City on Focus. That will be coming up after the news. Of course, we start with the news. CBS will bring you up to date on the world and the nation. A lot going on. And then, of course, we have the local report with Michael Percha to bring you up to date on the region and the state of Michigan. I'm Art Lewis. We'll be back with Focus right after the news.
Broadcasting from the storm.